What you're looking at here is documentation I created for a specific medical billing software program. And you can see down below on the status bar, I'm on page 107 out of 109 pages. And more specifically, I'm on the index page. And an index is an alphabetical guide inserted at the end of your document containing your choice of keywords or phrases with their corresponding page numbers. And that's really nice because after reading the entire document, if I'm like, you know what, I want to look up appointments, you can go to the index and it's sorted and grouped alphabetically, so you can go to the A's for appointments and go, hey, there it is, appointment. You've got the main entry and you have the sub-entries, anything that's tied to an appointment, like checking in a patient, checking out, collecting copay, making appointments, setting up appointment, and you can see the corresponding page numbers that they're on. Now to be able to pull all those keywords or phrases in, we've got to go out to the document and tag them first or mark them. And there's 3 ways you can do it. But before I show you how you can do it, let's take a look at some of these marked entries like, well, check in, check out, collect copay, well, because they're all on the same page. And what I want to show you when I go to that page is what the coding looks like for these marked entries on that page, which not only can you view the coding, but you can update, make changes to it as well. So for example, it says here, check in patient. Well, typically in the medical industry, checking in or out means it's a patient. And we don't have to have the word patient here. So I can go to that page and say don't include the word patient. So when I update the index, it just says check in, check out. Or I can go ahead and say collect copay is no longer a sub-entry about appointments. I can make it its own main entry. And when I do that, it'll go over to the C's and it'll be right there as main entry, collect copay. So let me show you what the code looks like and how easy it is to edit by going to page, well, where all these 3 are at, page 58. Hit the F5 key on the keyboard, takes you to the Go To tab, select page, type in the page number, well, it's already in for me, that worked out well, and hit Enter on the keyboard, takes you right to page 58. Close out, and that's what we're looking at, collect copay, check in, check out patient. Now to be able to see the marked entries or the code, that's the key word, code, come up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group and turn on the codes. And there you go. First one for collect copay, you got it in wavy brackets. Then inside of that you have XE, and then you have open quotes. You have the main entry, appointment, separated by the delimiter, the colon, to the sub-entry, which is to the right of that, collect copay, and then close quotes, and then close wavy brackets. So if you marked an entry that has both a main and a sub, you'll see it there. And if you're like, you know what, I don't want it to be a sub-entry to appointment. Let's just have collect copay as a main entry by itself. Well, go ahead and click inside of the quotes and delete or add to whatever you want. Just make sure you stay within the quotes. So if I go ahead and delete all that, great. When I update the index, which we'll do in just a minute, it'll now put it in the C's as a main entry. Now again, make sure that when you edit these entries that you stay within the quotes, because if you delete the quote or type in something outside of the quotes or delete something, you're going to run into trouble. In any case, we went ahead and updated that. And then down below, how about check in patient? There's the marked entry to the right of it. And we've got appointment. If you want to update the main entry, maybe make it plural. I know it doesn't make sense because we have check in patient appointments and then check out appointment. Nonetheless, I want to show you that when you make changes, like to the main entry, how that will look in the index, because we'll have 2 separate main entries, one that's singular and one that's plural. And now that you know how to edit these entries, pretty simplistic, right? Let me show you how you can mark an entry. So if I want to mark print individual charge slips so it can be found in the index with the page number that it's found on, go ahead and click to the right of it. You don't want to click any further over or down. You want to be right next to it, which makes sense when it comes to marking an entry. So that way when you're looking for something, it'll be right next to that keyword or phrase, as well as when it comes to pagination, because if this code right here, collect copay, wasn't next to it, but was way down below here, even close to it that I added some extra text, well, that will go on to page 59. If I push it far enough, in which case, when somebody comes to page 59 and can't find it, that's because the code's not right next to the keyword, which could still be on page 58. Okay, so go ahead and click to the right of it, and then to mark the entry, to put it into the index, then come up here on the References tab, go to the Index group, and mark it. It opens up the window, your main entry and sub-entry. You don't have to have a sub-entry, but you got to have at least a main entry. And our main entry will say is for print, like when it comes to printing charge slips, appointments, things like that. Let's put anything that has to do anything with printing under the main entry. And I can have a sub-entry, and type in charge slip, but if I don't and I come down here and click mark, let me close out, it marks it with the main entry, right? But if I'm like, oh rats, I want to go ahead and update that, do I have to remark it? No. We learn how to edit our entries by clicking in the quotes, and to add a sub-entry to the main entry, just, well, add the delimiter colon and then type it in. So now, when I update my index, I'll have the main entry print and then the sub-entry charge slip. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's come down below here to cancel and no-show patients. Oh, that's a good one. Let's do that one. Let's click to the right of that so we can mark it. Come back up here, References tab to the index group, click on Mark Entry, Main Entry. We'll do appointments. Okay, I know I've got two main entries, one singular appointment and one plural appointments. Let's just do it under the plural. And hit the tab key in the sub-entry. We'll say when it comes to appointments, this is about cancels and no-shows. And then click Mark. And there you go. Appointments, cancels, and no-shows. Of course, you can go ahead and update that. Just stay within the quotes, and you'll be good. Now, that could be very time-consuming, especially if you have one keyword that you want to mark throughout the entire document. What you can do instead is the second way that I'm going to show you to mark your entries is to mark all instances of that keyword or phrase. So, for example, how about schedule? If I want to go ahead and mark all the keyword schedules within the document, like schedule here for whole time, schedule here for block time, and so on, you have to select the keyword, because if you don't, like if I click to the right of it, and I come up here and click on Mark Entry, well, I can mark it, but I can't mark all instances of it, can I? Of course not. Click Cancel, and double-click to select it, and then go ahead and come back up here, click on Mark Entry, and it pulls it in, and it allows us to mark all of it, or all the instances of the word schedule. Now, it's case sensitive, so it'll only mark the word schedule with the uppercase S. It won't mark the lower cases. So when you're ready, go ahead and click Mark All, and voila, it's done. Let's go ahead and close, and then do Control F, so we can bring up the navigation pane, and it pulls it up. You can see schedule. Oh, it's got the entry marked for that schedule. Oh, that one's marked as well. Oh, that was fun. But did it mark it for the lowercase s? No. Or for anything else that was a derivative of it, like, well, the root word is schedule, but it has the scheduler, so no, it didn't mark that. That's the good news. The bad news is if you're like, I don't want it marked on every single page, just on certain pages. Well, if you use that feature, what you could do is after you mark them all, because it's a mark all or nothing, you can do a search and destroy mission. Just do what I'm doing here. Open up the navigation, and when you click on next, or the down arrow, it goes to the instance, and if it's right there, well, you can go ahead and click on the outside of the bracket and hit the backspace key. And then once it hits the bracket, when you backspace, it selects the entire field. Hit the backspace key again, and it's gone. You can do it that way, or you can delete it, which is clicking on the other side of it, because the delete key deletes what's in front of the cursor. Hit the delete key once, selects it, delete it again, and it's gone. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo and leave as is. And then the final way to mark an entry is using what's called a concordance file. It's nothing more than just a document with a table in it, and the table is only two columns. The column on the left is all the keywords that you want to be found within the Word document, and then the column to the right are all the keywords that you want to be put in the index after it found the keywords in the first column on the left. Now typically you would say, well, why wouldn't they be the same keywords? Typically they would be, but there are some instances where they may not be the same. In any case, we'll cover that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and take a break, pause the video, and I'll be right back. Whew, thanks for the break. I thought you'd never pause the video. Let's go ahead and create a concordance file by coming up here, clicking on the File tab, going down to New, and clicking on Blank Document. Let's close out of the navigation pane. Now in your blank document, to make it a concordance file, we have to insert a table by coming up here, clicking on the Insert tab, going to the Tables group, clicking on Table, and the table can be no more than 2 columns, as many rows as you want, or as many keywords you want to search up in the document. So let's go ahead and do a 2x5 table. And let me type in those words that I'd like to have found within the document, with the left column being those keywords to search up, and then the right column here are the words that I like to see in the index. Whew, that was fast. Okay, let me explain. The concordance file is a file containing a table with words you want Word to search for and mark and then display in your document's index. So what words is it going to be searching for? Anything that you have in your left column. And what is it going to put in the index? Anything you have in your right column. Now typically they're going to be the same, and I'll go over each one. So capitation, it'll find it in the document, and when it does find it, well, it should find it, it'll put the capitation as the main entry in the index. And then for carrier, if you want a main entry and a sub entry, then go ahead over in the right hand column for the lookup keyword here, in this case carrier. The main entry is going to be insurance companies, colon, as the delimiter, and then the sub entry carriers. So it's pretty simplistic, as we learned when it comes to editing our marked entries. It's the same thing here. You're just going to go ahead and have that separated. Left hand side of the colon, main, right, sub. Then batches to batches, and then batch, you'll look for the word batch, and then it'll replace it with very funny Bart in the index. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I wanted you to know that if you have something that you want it to be able to be off a little bit, in this case a lot, and you can do it, and it's not tied to it. And then we have something that's, well, a little bit more relatable. Like when it comes to a copay, you collect that at the appointment. So it'll look through the entire document, find the word copay, and then in the index, it'll have the word appointment and then the pages that can be found on. Now you can't have anything else within the document, just your table, and it's got to be 2 columns. And once you have it set up, well, if you need to add more, you can, at the end, hit the tab key and add additional rows here for additional keywords. But you can watch my training video on tables. So let's go ahead and undo that. And let's save it. Click Save. And it's going to be saved to the desktop. And let's go ahead and delete that and call it my Spiffy Happy-Go-Lucky Concordance File. You can name it whatever you want, just make sure that you know it's a document that has a table in it with 2 columns that contains, well, what we're talking about here, the definition of a concordance file, that you can go ahead and use that to mark all the entries within the document with those keywords. Let me click Save, that you want it to look up in the left-hand column and put what you see over in the right-hand column into the index. So now that we have it saved, let's go ahead and close out of here, go back to our document. And to go ahead and use that concordance file to mark all the entries, well, just come up here on the References tab, go to the Index group, and click on that guy right there, Insert Index. I know it doesn't make any sense. We're not inserting an index, but this is where you go if you want to use a concordance file to do what's called an automark, or automatically mark everything that it finds within that concordance file in your document here. So click on it, and I'm glad you trusted me because guess what? It's right there, automark. Go ahead and click on it, and it says, hey, where's that happy-go-lucky concordance file? You can name it whatever you want, doesn't matter, just as long as when it looks inside, it's got it limited to what we just talked about. 1 table, 2 columns, keyword search, left column, right column, things to go in the index. Go ahead and double click on it, and it's done. Wow, that was fast. So between the 3, where you can do a manually marked entry by clicking next to the word and marking it, or the second option where you can go ahead and do the Mark All, which you select a keyword and click on Mark All, and it automatically marks all instances of that keyword, or the concordance table, which if you want to go ahead and type in all the keywords, it might be easier for you because you'll probably know what you're looking for, and then to just type it in and have it automatically done for you instead of scrolling, and selecting each keyword like capitation, and then doing the Mark All, and then carrier Mark All, and then finding batches Mark All. Well, I think it's easier as far as that goes using the concordance file. And so now that we have it all marked, let's take a gander. Let me close out of the navigation pane and do Control-End to go to the end of the document and scroll up just a skosh here because there's our index. And what I want to do, since I already have the index, is I want to update it so it reflects all the changes that I made. And if I can remember all the changes, I'll go over each one that we talked about and see that it reflects here. Now, since I already have the index here, which I'll show you how to insert it in just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and just simply right-click on it to update it. But before I do, if I do it right now, I'm going to do a big no-no. And what I mean by that is that if I update it and I don't turn off the codes, I'm going to have incorrect pagination, and that's a big fat no. Because what's going to happen is that with all the codes being displayed, well, I'm not going to scroll up to find all those marked entries. Okay, there's a marked entry. But you see how it pushes the text over to the right to make way for the marked entry? Throughout the entire document, it's pushing all the text down, and if it pushes it down far enough, than what's supposed to be on, well, the current page I'm looking at, down below page 108. When I turn off the codes, it may be sucked up to page 107. And so when I insert the index or update the index, it's going to have incorrect pagination. So when I send this off to somebody electronically or print it off, and they come down here and they go to the index and like, okay, I'd like to look at appointment page 58, and I didn't turn off the codes when I updated this. It could be page 59, or check-in patient could be on page 57. So when I go to page 58, it's not there. So you got to turn off the codes, okay? Let's come up here on the Home tab to go to the paragraph group, turn it off, and look at that. You see how it collapsed? All right, now that I have the codes turned off, I can go ahead and either insert an index, or in this case, update it, and I can do that with a simple right click. Now I don't like updating it because when I do that it changes the format. So if I like the format here, the layout, well, I'll show you. It updates it, but it changes it. Let me go ahead and click on update. And you see the format's changed. I don't get the leader with the dot dot dot, so it leads my eye over to the numbers here. So if I'm looking at make appointment and my eye ski waver around, oh, it's on page 41 or 64. Well, you get the idea. That's why we have leaders, to lead me over, or my eye, to the corresponding page number that make appointment can be found upon. So what I can do instead, when I right click, instead of updating the field, I would edit the field and then come up here and click on index, and it opens up like I'm inserting the index, which I am, because I don't want the same one here, like the from template, which we'll go over in just a minute. When you insert an index, you can choose the different formats. I like classic, gives you a preview, and the page numbers are right next to the main entries, sub entries. Well, how about if I do a right align, so it puts it over to the right, and so I don't lose my way, take me to your leader. You only get 3 choices. I'm going to do dot dot dot, takes me right over to it, click okie dokie, give it a second, replace it, of course. Oh, that's nice, look at that. Cool, now let's try to remember everything that we did and all the changes that we made. So first off, we have our main entries, appointment and then appointments, plural. So we have checkout patient under, well, the singular, and then under plural, we've got our cancel and no-shows and check-in patient. Cool, that worked out. And then appointment, well, that's from my Concordance file. Let's go ahead and right-click on the document down below, the button that is, to get the jump list, and go to my spiffy happy-go-lucky Concordance file. Click on that. And remember, the left-hand column is the keyword that it's looking up within the document. And then when it finds it, it tags it with the word appointment on the page that it found the copay on. So copay appointment, if I go back here, it found the word copay that it tagged with the keyword in the index on page 19, 22, 23. So you want to go ahead and take a look, see if copay is found on page 19. I do. Let's go ahead and hit the F5 key on the keyboard. Type in 19, hit enter. Takes us right to it. And where's the copay? Okay, brother. Let's go ahead and do Control F. Type in copay. Ooh-wee, look at all them copays here. Well, with them highlighted, let's go ahead and turn on the codes. Do I dare? Let's turn it on, because it may bump out quite a ways if I had a lot of codes, but it didn't go too far. And hey, there it is, copay. And it tagged it there with appointment. Now, it didn't do it to that one. That one's plural. That makes sense. Copays, copays. It didn't do it to that one, so it's case sensitive. So as you recall, back in my spiffy happy-go-lucky Concordance file, copay is uppercase, the letter C. And so when I come back to my index, it only tagged or marked it as an entry when it found the uppercase C in copay. Cool. Let's go ahead and turn off the codes and do Control End to go to the end of the document. Let me close out of the navigation pane and scroll back up. And we were looking for batches, and it found the keyword batches in the Concordance file in those pages. And we were looking for the word batch. When it found batch, it was going to put in very funny Bart. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the V's. There you go. Wherever it found the word batch, which is on page 18, 21, 50, and so on, it put in very funny Bart. And let's go ahead and scroll up. Oh, there we go. Almost forgot. We had print, and then for that main entry, you had charge slip. And let's go ahead and scroll up to the eyes. because then we had the main entry insurance companies with the sub-entry as carriers, and so wherever it found carrier, which is on these pages here, it marked it as carriers. In any case, let's go ahead and show you how to insert an index, which is really simple. So to insert it, let me go ahead and delete what I got here. Let me turn on my codes so I can make sure that I delete it in its entirety here. Drag. Hold down the Shift key and click at the end. Hit the delete key, and then come up and click just below the index. And then to insert your index, come up here, click on the References tab. Now remember, it's a big fat no-no if you update your index or you insert an index with the codes turned on. Let's go ahead and click on the Home tab, go to the Paragraph group, turn off the codes. And why do we turn them off? Because everything's going to be pushed down and be pushed onto the next page, most likely. And so it'll show the index of all the keywords on the next page when it's actually on the page before it. So now that the codes are off and it's not pushing everything down with those marked entries, to go ahead and insert your index, come up here, click on the References tab, go to the Index group, and click on Insert Index, which is the same place that you go to when you want to use the Concordance file to do an automark. So it's right here, and there's the default, and you can choose something from the template list. How about something fancy? Well, that's kind of fancy. Let's do right align page numbers, and to lead my eye to those page numbers, let's do a leader ... Looks great. Click Okie dokie. You want to replace the index. Looks like I didn't delete the index in its entirety. I might have missed a code here, but we'll go ahead and say yes. And it looks pretty cool. And so this time, let's see if I can go ahead and come up here on the Home tab, turn on the codes, and see if I can delete everything this time so it doesn't ask me if I want to replace it. Hit the delete key, hit enter, hit enter. I think I got everything. Let's go ahead and do it really fast. Up here, References, go to the index, click on Insert. Let's go ahead and choose Right Align, take me to your leader. No, I like Classic, or we can do Fancy. That's okay. Right Align again, go ahead and choose Leader and click Okie dokie. There you go. Now it didn't ask me to replace it, did it? Totally inserted it. And if that went too fast, you can go ahead and rewind it and play it over and over again. Of course, I made the mistake of leaving the codes on. That's not a good thing, so I have to go ahead and undo that. And then with it right there, let's come on the Home tab, turn off the codes, and let's do it again. References, Index, Insert Index. Now let's do Modern, Right Align, Leader, Okie dokie. There we go. Now that was done correctly. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.